So, hi everyone. I'm here with my friend Nancy Johnson. She's the owner, well, I'm not going to say owner, the founder and operator of Secondhand Ranch Rescue in Princeton, Illinois. Nancy was a city girl for a long time, and then one day she just kind of up and left the city and created this rescue. And I think that the life you're living is the reason why I asked you to do this interview or this chat, whatever you want to call it, is you're living a very unconventional life. So
To
that,
say the least.
yeah, right? And I
Yeah.
think that you can live an unconventional life in a lot of different ways. And it could be, and your way is just as unconventional as somebody that has is off the grid or whatever,
Right.
whatever they're doing, or off, they're holistic healers or that type of thing. I think what you're doing is super, super important. So I mean,
Oh,
you're a huge inspiration to me and a lot of people. So I really think so. I also know what you're doing is super, super hard work.
I'm tired. I'm just tired.
I know. So
In a
if you
good way. In a good
can,
way.
can you tell us a little bit about like your journey, like what happened when when you start? What was was this a dream you always had, or
I did.
okay,
Yeah. Well, because I'm from Chicago. I'm a
yeah,
dazzling urbanite, and it's funny because I left Chicago in '96, but I still like consider myself. I'm like, I'm a Chicagoan. Damn it, you know. But so I kind of ended up here in a weird sort of circumstance. I ended up marrying a skydive instructor at Skydive Chicago, and we ended up loving rural Illinois, this area. And when we divorced, he made sure I got property like this, this cool little piece of 5 acres that you've seen.
uh-huh,
And I just started, my dream was to have an animal ranch, just something, like how everybody does. They're in Chicago and they kind of like, oh, I'm going to have horses and it's going to be like this beautiful, animals everywhere. But the reality is there's a lot of poop. I just want to let you know there's a lot of poop. It's true. And so it just kind of formed. I mean, I could get all spiritual and stuff like that. Back in 2007, I was kind of lost. I didn't have, I was in my 30s, didn't have kids, and I was in kind of a bad marriage and a bad place. And I just kind of did. Okay, you're gonna laugh at me. I watched an Oprah. I
you
watched an Oprah. Yeah, and I never watched Oprah before. And she's like, surrender yourself. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with my life? I had a great career, and all of a sudden, this came to me. I found a squirrel in the yard, a baby squirrel. I know this is how it all happened. This is how it happened, folks. I found a baby squirrel in the yard, and there was no wildlife rehabbers. So I started, taking care of it, and it kind of snowballed. The next year, some people heard that I had taken in a squirrel, and then so I got my DNR licensing to rehab. And then, with the whole surrender, what am I going to do with my life? And I had the great career. But also, I'm like, hey, I could really have an impact. I could teach children about wildlife. And when I was a kid in Minnesota, under 10, there was a nature center called Oxbow Park. And my
uh-huh.
mom used to take me to that. And that kind of like spurred my interest in nature. Even though, we didn't live in a farm, we lived in a small town. My mom would take me to this wildlife rehabber in Byron, Minnesota. And I just remember the impact that had on me. Even when I was in Chicago and, growing up in Rogers Park, I've always wanted to get back to the country. And I thought, you know what, if I could just impact a few kids once in a while, do some tours, or, if somebody finds an animal, and usually the people that find wildlife, because, I'm a wildlife rehabber, are incredibly cool people because they've stopped their life to, help this animal. So then I started thinking, like, I'd like to do an education center. I want to be the Oxbow Park in the Illinois River Valley area. So, and that just, over the years, it just snowballed.
Really? So
Yeah, so
you
that's
actually
how it all happened.
you actually had this vision that this is
Mhm.
what, like, starting from a little squirrel saved in your backyard.
Like 2007, I found a baby squirrel in the backyard, and I, started. I'm like, God, this is really cool. This is like I'm getting in touch with nature, and I'm helping. And then I started meeting the families that rescue animals because they'd start bringing them to me. So then it just kind of grew. I got my nonprofit. I started having, inviting people on tours. So I've always said with rescue, there's two aspects of it: animal rescue and these great people to teach.
Right. So this started in Chicago.
I started actually. I dreamed about getting out to the country all the way when I was in Chicago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's even though I had, I was in advertising or direct mail in Chicago and doing the normal Chicago life, being in my 20s and stuff like that, I always wanted to get out to the country.
Yeah.
I just had this vision, and I just kept always saying that, oh, someday I'll get married and maybe I'll have a farm. But then just kind of things fell into place. I started meeting some really strong women who had found their own dreams, and so I just kind of I visioned it for years, and it happens when you focus on a positive thing like this.
Yeah, that's amazing, Nancy. So I want people to know, so what you do, you have a regular full-time job.
Yes. Yes, I work for the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and I have a regular great career. I'm a program manager for Gypsy Moth. So that's my real life. Or
Right.
maybe the rescue is real life. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I have a full-time job, and this is just a passion. I'm a wildlife rehabilitator. I don't know if your people follow any of my adventures, but I'm a wildlife rehabber and also a companion animal rescue, and I do dog hospice.
Okay, that's an inch. That's a really that part is really cool. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So your typical day, you go to work full time, 5 days a week,
Yep.
and then you come home. I'm sure that you have to do some stuff before you go to work.
Yep. I get up in the morning. There's probably about 50 animals here at any given time. And I also have fosters that help me with the little babies in the spring and stuff. But yeah, normal time, I get up about 4:30. I do my chores, feed all the animals, make sure they're clean and everybody's happy.
Uh-huh.
And I leave my house because I work up in DeKalb, which is about 100 miles away.
Oh,
So I
gee.
leave. Exactly. So yeah, I get up in the morning and then do my chores, get ready, I take a shower and all that fun stuff. And about 6:15, I head up to DeKalb, and then I have my normal day, 8 to 4:30. I'm sometimes in the field running my program. And then I usually, done with my day at 4:30. I get home about 6:15. I do my chores, make sure everybody's okay, do some of the rescue business paperwork and stuff like that. And usually I'm unwinding about 9 o'clock at night, have some dinner, go to
Right.
bed, repeat.
Right. Wow.
So it is it is a lot. I mean, people think it's fun. It is fun, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So at any given time, you said you had about 50 animals there, 50.
50,
Let's
yeah.
let's talk about the different types of animals that are there. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So in the springtime, and sometimes the numbers are quite a bit higher. Spring and summer is when the baby wildlife come in, and I've done anything from 40 to, as you've seen on my paperwork, 160 animals have come through my rescue in a given year.
okay.
So that's
So I'm gonna stop you right there because baby wildlife that's a whole different job in itself. So that
yes, it is.
requires that's just not like, oh, I got some babies, they're gonna leave them in a little, enclosure. They require
No.
really special needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, temperature.
Right. Yes. So because I kind of skip over it when I'm like, oh, the baby animals. But
Yeah,
luckily, I have like a lot of volunteers that help me as well. Some
that's
really great ladies. So yeah, the babies, you have to keep them at a certain temperature. They have to be monitored. They have to be separated by species. Then you have your feeding programs, specialized formula, specialized feed when you wean them off their formula, schedules that have to be adhered to. Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, baby animal. It's a whole world of, of care.
and not only that, they're extra messy.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to get into the whole poop factor of it, but yeah, I do a lot of laundry. My wash machine has not stopped since 2011.
They're really messy. They're like they're babies. They're pooping and puking
Exactly.
and being having like pro-
The unglamorous part of rescue,
cry. They
yeah.
cry.
Oh, it's a lot of laundry, a lot of cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
Okay, that's like I think that's like a special part within your rescue. So we got the babies right now in spring, the dogs. Let's see.
yeah, I do at any given time. There's usually about 10 hospice dogs here. Our older dogs or problem dogs. I work with a lot of rescues that know that I'll take in. I have 19-year-old dogs and 15-year-old dogs. Once again, a lot of laundry. So they have that aspect. And then I do some farm animal rescue. I've taken 3 potbelly pigs in from Chicago, the mini pig thing. And then I have goats rescued. I have 2 foxes, chickens, ducks, rabbits that have been found on this. People get them for Easter and then they're set free. In fact, I just took another bunny in yesterday, found on the road, a domestic rabbit. So, and then pony, mules, donkeys.
Right.
I think that's it. I think we're stopping right there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we have our education animals, flying squirrels, prairie dogs, ferrets, hamsters, the animals that we keep full time that are here as residents, not up for adoption. And those are to teach children about animals and adults. The adults are just.
So before we turn this live on, you had 2 prairie dogs behind you that were creating a ruckus, and Nancy had to move them. So they live with you full time.
Yep. And right now I'm in my office for the rescue, and it's also we have classes on art and Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts. They come here for classes, and in here we have the ferret, flying squirrels, hamsters, and the prairie dogs.
Okay. Wow. That's
amazing. So yeah, there's lots of cleaning.
Yeah,
we had to take them out. They were just way too noisy.
I mean, I had 3 ferrets at one time, and it was a lot of work. They need to go out. They need to run. They need to exercise. You just don't leave them in a cage and everything's,
Yeah, when people come here for the open house, everything's all cute and everybody's in their little spots. But what they don't realize that each of these animals has to have enrichment. So not only do we have specialized diets, medical care, farriers to trim hose, and then keeping everything, as I call it, city pretty. There's that whole aspect. Every animal needs to have some interaction and needs some time out of their enclosures, and not the wildlife. That's a whole separate section. We don't mess with the wildlife.
Right.
We want them to wild up. But yeah, every other animal needs some sort of interaction. So not only, when people come through for the open houses, they're seeing all the animals, but there's also this whole backstory with everybody, grooming and care and all that. So
right. Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it is a pass.
Their nails get real long. They need to be clipped. Their ears need to be cleaned. They're pets, really.
Yeah. When people come and they have one dog, I'm like, I can never get to trimming its nails. I'm like, try 10.
Yeah, right. So then let's talk a little bit about the hospice care. So you take animals in the beginning of their life, the wildlife in particular. I'm sure you've had kittens as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you also take dogs in at the end of their life. So a lot of people dump their dog at the end of their life at various animal shelters or pounds or whatever, and obviously the dog still has a lot of life left in it, and I don't know what they're thinking, but it's not easy for the rescuers or the people in the shelters to do that job either. I think a lot of times it becomes really difficult for people to see their animal aging.
Right.
And
yeah, and I've had a couple conversations when I've been out and about doing festivals, and it's really weird the concept people have. They'll be like, oh, it's so great, I go to this and this shelter where they have convenient euthanasia, and they're like, oh, my dog was getting so old and I didn't have to be there, I just was able to drop it off and they took care of it. It's like, oh
yeah, that's, I can't say that I am angry at those people for doing that. I think it's a cultural problem. So I think that we're so disconnected from death that, we're just we're just sign up to have it done, just like we do, sign up to have a baby. Like, oh, let's schedule. Yeah. Let's schedule our C-section. Let's schedule our death, And I think being there with the animal, I'm not kidding you. It was one of the most, I've done it. I've,
right. I remember when you had kids.
Yeah. At first sign, I'm like, oh, look, the cat's dying. I better bring it in, Not first sign, but, I know now looking back that I could have waited a while. This last cat that I had, and I talked to you about it,
right.
I was like, I said to my husband, I think it's time. He's like, what? Who are you to say it's time?
That's the I guess proper attitude is like, why is it our decision?
Yeah.
They'll let you know. They do. I consult a lot of people at the end of life with their dogs and their cats, and they're, always asking that question. I'm like, they'll let you know. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It's like this whole scheduling. It's a cultural thing with, we want to schedule everything.
Right. And I mean the cat still he had a lot of life left in him. He went for almost another year. And I mean it wasn't pleasant. I had to quarantine him off and but I mean wouldn't we do that for the person that we love?
Exactly, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
So,
So yeah, when I get these dogs in, and I swear, sometimes I only have them a week, sometimes just a weekend, but I give them, they live in the moment. Animals live in the moment. They're not little humans. They're animals, and if you give them kindness and love, even if it's just that last weekend, that's what's going to stay with their spirit. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I'm
yeah.
not,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not an animal
agree.
brain, but
I really agree.
I've had like 47 of them passed away here.
How many?
47.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a special, really amazing job. It really is, Nancy. I really it's very moving and it's such a sacred passage, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel honored that I'm part of this. And, I work with some really great shelters like Anti-Cruelty Society in Chicago. And I've taken in some, they've had some owner surrenders and they call me. In fact, Blackie's one of them. Or, owner will die. And it's really great working with them because they'll like vet the dog, get all the medicine for it. And then they come spend their time here, which is sometimes a weekend. But yeah, it's an honor to be part of this path with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Just,
really beautiful. It really is because like I said, it's a sacred, sacred time when you're entering life and leaving life, and it's the same for all living things. Yeah, exactly. So,
and I gotta, and I have to say, I'm really lucky too, because, people, they always say it's so hard to get to the vet, that whole horrible when they bring the vet into an animal. And this is like, I know, not a happy subject, but I'm also very lucky that my vets are also part of my hospice program. So if a dog is too big or if it's having a really hard time or it's gone mentally, they'll come in the evening and we have the dog pass, transfer over out in my yard under a tree. I mean, many times they've come on emergency calls to come help me do the transfer over. And then if it's like an emergency late at night, they'll come out into my car
wow.
and we have music and peanut butter. I mean, I might sound like a loon, but I think maybe, dog people get, what I'm doing here. But, my vets are so great. They don't make me bring my dog. And the dog, once it comes to us for hospice care, it will never see a facility again for, unless it's like medical care, normal medical care.
Right.
But, I'm always very careful with their last moments. They're in my car on their favorite blanket with their toys and peanut butter. And my vet team is just amazing. They come sit in the car with me and talk, and we'll have like, we might have a podcast on or some music, and we'll just sit in the car and talk. And so the animal, it's because I take it so, it's important to me that they have a proper transfer, a proper goodbye,
Yeah. I think it's
So
really important. It makes me cry. I'm almost like in tears just
okay.
thinking about that moment. It's really it's a deep, meaningful moment. It really is. And if you're,
Yeah.
if when you do wait, I think there's something that happens. I don't know. The connection between my cat and I was like, I can't explain that to anyone. I really can't.
Right.
Like he was like, it's time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and they tell you, and it's
yeah,
like same with everyone of my. I have a lot of conversations because with doing the dog hospice, I also meet a lot of nice people who follow my path because I share their stories on my Facebook page. When they come here, and sometimes in their failing health and stuff like that, and I share these with the public, with my followers, and so I have this great support. And I've gotten into a lot of discussions, healthy, good discussions, and people are like, oh, I couldn't do that, I couldn't be there and do the hospice like you do, but it's different than your own pet dog. I mean, people have a pet dog that's young and spends its life with you, and then you see it decline in age because in your mind you're remembering your puppy when it was young and
right.
fun, and you have that part. But when I'm running a hospice, I've never seen this dog at its happiness, so I know whatever I'm doing, I'm doing the best. It's happy moment. So
Yeah.
it's a whole aspect when you do hospice versus when you have the animal its whole life, because you're still remembering it's cute when it was a puppy or the day that you went hiking at the park. So that's one thing. It's a little bit easier, you might say, because you know that you're in a good place doing hospice. You are doing the right thing. So
Right.
because people are like, isn't tear your soul? And I'm sad with every one of them, but I know I'm giving this dog the best it's ever had.
Yeah. Gotcha. I get it. I understand. I think everybody deserves, that like that passage, that safe passage, that loving passage, and not just like, oh, I'll drop you off at the vet or, and have you euthanized. It's like, Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think about it much differently now, much differently.
Yeah, and it's an important part. It's kind of I'm kind of a rescue that's like out there. I mean, as you're saying, follow your passion. There's like different things for different paths that are all good. So on one side, like I do this wildlife rehabbing, and then over here, it's like the hospice.
Right, right.
Like, whoa.
So let's talk a little bit about rehabbing. So you bring the animals in. Usually they're babies usually, or they're wounded or hit or something's up with them that they ended up with you.
Exactly. There might be most of them are orphans.
Right.
Some situation and they're orphans. And people have encountered wildlife. We don't go. People usually don't go looking. I get a question a lot, like, do you go looking in the woods for wildlife after a storm? I'm like, wildlife is wildlife. Nature. Everybody's has a balance. But so often, man has impacted, by their subdivisions going into areas that had wildlife in it, or storm will come through and I'll try to teach people how to relocate or reunite baby animals with their adults when there's a storm. So I do a lot of I guess tech support for animals.
Right.
And so a lot of it is the babies come in here, or if they're injured, animals that are hit by cars, or they don't know what to do when they find a sick animal, they'll bring it to me, and I work with vets, because I'm not a vet tech, but I have a triage center. I can get animals stabilized, clean their wounds if they need it, and then I have great vets that I work with. Then I'll make an appointment, and one of my volunteers will take me, or one of the volunteers, depending on the schedule, will take it to the vet. But it's mostly baby wildlife. I mean, if you look on my website, you probably saw all the stats of how many baby wildlife there are. And I mean, like
Yeah.
30 baby raccoons and 40 baby squirrels. And it depends on the year. People are being out with the storms, how they find babies.
Right.
The winter before, if it's a harsh winter, our numbers are really low right now. So I think the harsh winter had a huge impact on wildlife this year.
Oh,
On the
sure.
numbers in general, I don't know. We just are really kind of slow. I'm happy if I don't have wildlife, because that means they're with their parents, which is ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So people find wildlife. I work with the conservation police and the DNR and the animal controls and vets. So everybody, I'm kind of well known out here, and there's a team of us with rescue. And so they'll bring the baby wildlife in, and we stabilize it. If it's dehydrated, we get it warmed up on a heating pad. Then we do sub-Q fluids, so I can do that, which means we put fluids underneath the skin, get the little baby stabilized, or if it can drink, we get Pedialyte in it, and then we start introducing formula, kitten and puppy formula, and start a schedule of taking care of it. We document everything, kind of weigh them in on a gram scale. It's very specific. I mean, it's not just grabbing an eyedropper and feeding a baby.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, rehabbers, a lot of people think when they find a baby, and there is a lot of great information on the internet. I mean, that's how I became a wildlife rehabber, is just joining a forum and reading stuff. But a lot of common sense sometimes isn't out there.
Right.
But yeah, so there's, as soon as the baby gets in, we start documenting its weight, its health condition. And once it's stabilized, we'll deworm the baby animal, deflea it, because at first it goes into quarantine. It's like a whole procedure. It's not just like, oh, let's throw a baby in a box. We get it all situated, and then we start monitoring its outtake and intake, or outgoing poop and pee, and intaking and its fluids, and then its formula, and then basically work it to weaning off formula over time. And every animal's different. Squirrels, it's not like a certain schedule for every single animal. Everybody's a little different, so we monitor that.
Right.
And then get it weaned, get it starting to eat natural foods. We might introduce like a puppy chow first, but then we start finding natural foods for the animals, which gets expensive.
Yeah.
Then we migrate them to the release enclosures. So that's a whole nother project, building enclosures.
Right.
And then we get them wild up, and then preparing for release within the summer or fall.
So release enclosures are kind of in the woods.
Correct. Yeah, I live out in the timber, and I have great neighbors, thank God. So we have I have all these enclosures. They're called release pens. So they're away from the house. They're kind of behind the barns, kind of tucked into the timber. So the animals can start getting used to being outside and in the storms. I don't bring anybody in during a storm. They have to kind of toughen up. And it's really hard when you first start putting your babies out there, because you've had them since you're like, my little baby. Right. And then there's a storm. You're like, oh my God, he's scared of the storm, but you have to be all brave. You're like, okay, little squirrels, you can do it. Yeah, and yeah, I'm out there with a flashlight at like 1 a.m. Is everybody okay? It's true. It's true.
That's so funny because like there's so many squirrels out there and they're fine. You know what I mean? Every day they come to my house and they're like digging up my plants. I know they're fine.
I know, like in your regular mind, you're like, you know, they're okay, or like there'll be like a terrible storm and you're out there with the baby raccoons, and they have like this great enclosure with like a roof on it, little hammocks, and you'll be out there with the flashlight at 2 a.m. Is everybody okay? Did you guys handle the storm well? It's a raccoon.
You're so funny. So that never goes away, huh?
No. And then when you release them, I released them, when I first did many years ago, I had 2 little baby raccoons, they were like all so sweet, but I had a pair of them. I didn't habituate them. So they were, all wild and getting snarly. So I took them to the woods. I don't release raccoons around my house because it would be like an infestation of raccoons. I have friends with timber. I have a couple around here that have come back that are like favorites that I post on my Facebook page all the time.
Yeah, let's stop there. What, the one that's Esther?
Esther, yes. Yeah. I did not raise Esther. She showed up. Somebody must have raised her, and they released her down at one of the Hennepin Canal. It's a conservation area. And some people were actually, they were from Chicago, and they were working on a project, doing some research down at this area. And they called me like, there's this little raccoon that keeps crawling in our car. So they brought her here. And she just wouldn't wild up. I mean, she likes other raccoons, but she never got mean. So I couldn't, when I tried to release her, she kind of like ran back to me. This is the one and only one out of like hundreds of raccoons that have done this. And so I like released her here. Luckily, I have great neighbors. And so she went wild, and I was like, oh, she's gone.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like a month later, she shows up, moves into my barn, and she's got a family.
So she's like, I didn't like it out there, Mom.
Yeah.
Experienced the wild and I hated it. I'm back.
Exactly. So she like just sits in, and you follow my Facebook page as you do.
Yeah.
She just hangs out in the barn. I mean, everybody else is like, oh my God, there's a raccoon in my barn. What do I do? I'm like, oh God, I have a raccoon in my barn. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So every night when I do chores of feeding the animals, she just sits on the hay. And if you don't pay attention to her, she bats your shoe and, comes up and grabs your shoelaces. And yeah, and all my raccoons, hundreds of raccoons, I've never seen one like this. So
that's really interesting. So this is quite an anomaly. I figured it was because I know that you released them. And I thought you said she came back. I was like, I guess she lives there now.
Yeah. And I get the stories from farmers and a lot of people. I mean, out here in rural Illinois, people have encountered, orphan raccoons for years. I mean, everybody has a story about how an uncle, a friend, or when they were kids,
right.
And they release them in their farms or their barns, and they stay around for a while, and then they go wild. It's like a normal story out here. But that she's like staying here and still so personable. It's hilarious. I always share a story, and it's not a normal story.
She's very cute. Very cute. So to give people an idea, I just want to go over your numbers real quick. So in 2011, you rescued 46 wildlife and 8 dogs. That was your intake. In 2018, you rescued 166 wildlife and 19 house or domesticated pets. This includes chickens and ducks, dogs, a Shetland pony, 1 Shetland pony, 1 cat, and 2 house rabbits. So I know the variety is different every year. And even last year you had coyotes.
Yeah, we had 3 coyotes. And and I have to also give a shout out. I have a great team of volunteers. Because I work full time and it's a busy season with my regular job. I couldn't do it without these teams. I have there's probably 5 wonderful people that have their specialties in their babies. So they have I have a team that does raccoons. I have 3 teams that do raccoons. I have another really wonderful friend. She does the coyotes.
Right.
And so and the fox, and her specialty is coyotes and fox and raccoons. So it's not just I do the wildlife rehabbing, but I also have this great volunteer team. Right. So I'm not doing 100, they sit there and think, oh, Nancy does 166 animals. I got to say, it takes a village. I have a great...
I totally understand that. I know. This is a lot of work. I can't imagine that. And I know this is
and stuff like that. So,
this is as big as you want to get, right? This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So So, okay, let's
I'm
talk.
tired. I'm doing a lot of laundry.
Right, I know. And let's talk about the money aspect. So, I mean, it's expensive to
Yeah,
to raise all these animals. I mean, I know. And where does that money come from?
that's what's great. So what people think is that because I'm a DNR licensed rescue, and I have to apply for that certificate every year, that there's funding, but there is zero funding. There's no grants. There's no government funding. There's nothing that comes with the county, the state, the federal government, nothing. All of us rehabbers do it all out of our own pocket. But if you're a 501c3, you can't run it out of your own pocket. Like before, when I did rehabbing in 2007, 8, and 9, I was just by myself, and I was licensed, but I wasn't a 501c. But once you become a 501c, you have to do fundraising and make your little nonprofit self-sustaining, because they want to make sure people aren't laundering their money, just donating their money. I'm like, I'm getting a tax break. It has to all come from the public.
Okay.
Or grant, whatever, however you do your fundraising. But what's really crazy cool, and I just posted it on Facebook yesterday, it's all small donations. It's regular people helping me out. And I really took off once I jumped on Facebook and got an iPhone. I got an iPhone. I joined everybody. I was like, no. But and I share my stories and rescue and what I do each day. So I have wherever I go, I bump into people like, oh, you're Nancy at Second Hand Ranch. I'm like, that's me. But it's crazy. So I have my numbers posted, all my donations. And there are some larger donations. And there's a place called Happy Dog Barkery in Downers Grove. They do fundraising and do larger donations. And there's different groups of people that will do donations. As a group, they do fundraising.
Yeah.
But almost everything is $5, $10, $30 here. And I do auctions. I do a lot of crafts and sell things. But on Facebook, people can do their birthday auction or birthday fundraiser. How you click, for your birthday. And it's all these people that follow my page do that. So you look at those numbers that I post, and it might be $20,000, but it was not a $10,000 donation. Every one of those is $5, $10, $100. So that to me is what blows my mind, is that there are these, sometimes people are like, oh, I only gave you $5. That's huge. A bottle of bleach, some old towels, $5. Once again, it takes a village.
Right. So that's another thing. Even the smallest donations have an impact. So, I see these things that somebody will say, if everyone on this page donated $1, we could get, and they're right. They're absolutely right. So, and it's true. If every one of your followers donated $5 a year,
oh yeah,
you'd probably be pretty good, because it's expensive. So let's talk about some of the expenses you have. So I mean, you have built enclosures, so there's always some kind of building going on or fixing or something. And this stuff's not cheap. It's not lumber and chicken wire and all this equipment. They have to be heated and insulated. We also have that part. It's not just squares in the woods. You also have
it's crazy. And so I think a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, and I probably should update it, I was researching how much each animal took to get to adulthood. Mm-hmm. And when I get a baby fox in or a baby raccoon, how much money does it take? Now this is without medical care, because we know vet bills are expensive. I mean, you can have one little coyote with a broken paw, and we're resetting it. We're treating it our vets treat every piece of wildlife, or not piece, every creature of wildlife like it's a fancy show dog. So I'll have a paw broken on a squirrel, and we're resetting it and spending regular vet money, to repair this little paw for something that's going to be set free, because, that's what we do.
Right.
So we're looking at our prices, and it was I think about $75 per raccoon to get it to adulthood with formula and deworming. And that doesn't include the time, but that just includes the food.
The very basics.
The very basics,
and does that include heat and everything?
No. And the thing, when I break down on my financials, I have all these buildings out here that are heated and air conditioned, they're insulated. So the rescue pays for the building, but me personally, I pay the property taxes. My electric bill is about $300 to $400 year round. It's a huge electric bill. And so I just absorb those costs. And then the time, all our volunteers plus my time is, it's about 3 to 4 hours every single day. That's just maintaining the animals here.
Right.
3 to 4 hours a day. And then on the weekends I spend it. It's basically, it's a passion. You have to really, really want to do this.
Right.
I get a lot of people calling saying, I want to take care of animals. It's like, no, it's a huge, huge financial and time commitment,
Yeah.
which I love.
So,
But,
yeah. So,
but
go
yeah,
ahead.
it's really expensive. Like I just purchased formula, 4 tubs of formula, and it was $600.
Wow. Yeah.
For this formula, and that won't get me through the season. That's just to get started. I mean, and they have to have very specialized, we have puppy formula, and kitten formula that works very well, but there's also a company called Fox Valley Formula. So some animals do really good on the puppy and kitten formula, which, I mean, one can is $7, and that's just like basically one meal.
Wow.
So one
Oh my
times
God.
10. Yeah, so you have the $6 can, and that might be for like a baby raccoon, that might be one day's food. So then multiply times 20 raccoons, that's 20 cans, $6 a can. I mean, you can just, the numbers just add up.
No.
And then we have deworming, and then, any vet care. And the hospice dogs, we don't do heroics because we don't want them to suffer. We don't do any major surgeries if there's cancer, but
Right.
we still do full-on vet care. We, and our vets are awesome, but we do, pain medications and, supplements and
Right.
specialized diets. So that all adds up.
Yeah,
And
sure does. So
yeah, so
yeah, it's expensive. You're not making money off of this.
no, and it
Cover that.
I'm really,
That fantasy that people think like, oh, you must be getting rich off this. I
Yeah,
know
'cause
you
people come
sometimes
to my
get,
house.
you told me that you get people calling you pretty often. So can you explain that, like your experience with that, people thinking that?
Oh yeah, that's and same with all shelters and rescues. We kind of have a club. We sometimes sit down. We kind of talk about things, other shelters and rescues, and it's a common thing that they think that you're making. And yeah, there are bad systems out there, but
Right.
there's no grants or funding for any of these shelters or wildlife rescues. We're all self-funded, so they'll come and they'll look at everything. One of my things is they come to my house, and my house is from my job and my career.
Right.
That is nothing to do. I don't take any salary. Everything I don't. My volunteers and nobody takes a salary on any of this. And so they'll come to my house. I'm like, God, you got a great gig, because I have these open houses and I meet fantastic people.
Right.
And they're not being cruel at all. They're just being
Naive.
They just don't know. They're naive, because they'll see that I have 5 acres here, and oh, this is a great gig, and they say it lovingly, and they wish they could have this too. I mean, I meet so many people like, God, this is such a great gig you have out here. I would love to do this, or my daughter would like to do this. My son would like to do this.
Uh-huh.
And my home is from my job, my regular real life.
Right.
And that's what put this all together. This was here before I was a rescue.
Right.
The outbuildings that depreciate my property value are from the rescue, or fundraising from the rescue. My first building was years ago. It was a little tiny cottage, and it was great. I have everybody's name who donated. It was just little donations here and there, and we raised $1,200. I'm able to buy one of those pre-made buildings that came on, and then
I know.
it.
How many little outbuildings do you have now?
Let me look. There's about 4.
Oh, that's okay. That's not a lot. I mean,
But then we had the pig pass. We have the office, the cottage, everything's labeled, the shed where our supplies are stored. Then we have the Easter collection building. And then we have a lot of like the raccoon enclosures and fox enclosures. So we have those. So there's probably, I guess, 4 or 5 heated buildings, and then probably another 7 or 8 enclosures for the animals.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big operation.
That's a lot.
And you're on 3 acres?
5.
5 acres. That's nice. That's nice.
In the timber. Yeah, it's a really nice area. It's along the Illinois Valley.
That's really cool.
But yes, a lot of people think that there's it's grants paying for all this.
Right. And that they could possibly like this could be their livelihood.
Yeah, and you know what? And I get a lot of calls, and you and I have talked about this, because people are like, "Oh, I want to do it. Do you want to do it?" And I get a lot of people wanting to volunteer. Mm-hmm. And I'm always appreciative to volunteers, but they think that it's going to be feeding baby animals. Like they're just going to spend a day doing, and I have the selfie problem. Everybody knows the selfie problem. They'll just want to be like, and it's rescue is not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of hard decision. You and I have talked about it. And on the outside, and the happy stories are, look at this animal that we brought in, and it's like all warm and cute and fuzzy, and but there's this whole pre thing that comes in. Sometimes animals don't make it. We have a lot, of those 166, many of them are in such bad shape that they don't make it. So
Right.
then we have to make that call. Do we take it to the vet to euthanize, or is it going to pass on its own? And can we make it comfortable? Is it, there's those, sometimes we'll be up all night. Last year I got a fox in that was dehydrated and covered in mange. So you have to be very careful with diseases that transfer to you. So I was all gloved up and trying to, help this fox, up every 2 hours, sub-Qing it. And for 2 days, I tried to help this fox, but he was just too far gone. So there's
Oh,
those rough things. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, you'll get things, and animals will pass away, and it's nature, and you have to just accept it. You did what you could, but you get so attached to these animals.
Yeah.
And that's one of the real, and having to make these calls, and then the things that you see. I'm not a vet, but we see a lot of the bad stuff.
Yeah. I know
So
you do. I know you do.
so,
Um,
so yeah, so that's a whole, I share the happy stories. I don't always share the gruesome stories. And so I always try to, like, when people are like, oh, we'd like to be a wildlife rehabber. It's like, well, are you ready? Are you ready for the bad and the good?
right. So I follow another page. It's a guy in Greece that has this giant dog rescue, and he takes in dogs. I mean, some of these dogs are really badly abused. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. God, when people in other countries that are, I'm amazed.
right. And it's like, it's unbelievable to me how abused these dogs are. And he brings them in and he shows them, on Facebook, like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And there are people who are like, I'm going to block you. I can't follow your page anymore, blah, blah, blah. He's very criticized for that, but it's like, I'm trying to show you what is going on here. I mean, it's like if you can't follow the page, then fine. You know what I mean? But I mean, this guy,
Right.
I think there's a reality to it that a lot of people don't want to admit, or they can't see.
And they'll lash out at you. I've learned with using social media, growing my rescue and telling my stories. It's things that we're used to and wanted to share. People will have these reactions that they don't want to know about this, and it's like, and then they'll kind of turn on you. So I could see
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
trying to share a story like what he's doing, and people will turn. It's like, well, just scroll past it
right,
instead of getting angry.
exactly. So now he puts like a little warning on the certain ones that this is graphic content, stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is fine. But some of the stuff, I mean, it's just horrendous. I was just like, wow. One of the things that I came to your rescue with my sister a while back ago, and you were telling me about dog food, like how dog food was made, how the pet food
Oh,
industry. And I was
yeah.
like, so ever since then, that has been rolling in my mind. And the whole factory farming thing was kind of going along with it. And I was like, I can't feed my animals this stuff anymore with a good conscience. You know what I mean? Like I could see if you're, I have the
It's
money that I can, buy them, put them on their ancestral diet. It's not very
right.
expensive. It costs me like $40 a month. That's because I buy it directly from a farm, a small farm, the meat, and then I prepare,
Right.
a mixture for them. And I mean, after you told me that story, I was not able to ever stomach that again.
And it's crazy because I try to, I'm always telling about, proper diets of animals, and, what I was telling you about, and how, you know, well, we won't get into it, but you can research it. It's not like a scare tactic. I'm talking about, dogs and cats are in, euthanized dogs and cats are in your pet food. It's just fact. It's, your meat
Yeah.
byproduct is, tankage, and people can look that up. It's not, scare tactics. But the industry is just so horribly corrupt. I mean, we spend these billions of dollars on our pets, and as you know, the food is just unbelievably bad. So I work with like Happy Dog Barkery, and they make their own food, and you just got to research it. It's crazy bad stuff out there.
Yeah.
And people
Well,
are like, oh, I can't. And I'm not judgmental on people when they say they can't afford it or what's easiest for them. And I feed a higher end dog food for mine, or I'll make my own diet. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
But if you start telling people about this, they think you're some sort of like crazy person. Like, oh no, if the government says it's okay for me to feed this dog, it must be. And then all of a sudden we have all these. Since we've talked, how many times have we had food recalls? Even some
Yeah.
high end
I can't.
phenobarbital.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, even
know.
Edgar's, which is like a high end dog food, was getting recalled because there's phenobarbital in there.
Oh,
Because you
yeah.
euthanize all these cats and dogs, and then you make dog food out of it.
Oh my
Hello?
God, I didn't even think of that. That is so disgusting and gross and horrible and unethical.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just everything all rolled into one. So it's like it's the whole our whole system. So there's a lot of you think people that are starting dog food or pet food industry, companies or whatever, um, care about our pets. So they make it
Yeah.
seem like they do, but they don't. They only care about their bottom line. That is it.
Right.
So it's
And I
like,
was always so into the kibble and stuff like that. And I went to South Africa and was visiting friends of mine that had a farm, and they had like a ton of dogs. And there was like this giant stew on the stove, and that's what started me researching pet food. And I was talking to this, my friend's mom, and she's like, "Oh, you Americans with your kibble and your chemical foods for your dogs." And she's like, "Dogs need good protein and good, And she
yeah,
had like this dog stew that they went to the butcher and got everything, and veggies and stuff like that. This beautiful stew. And I'm like, "What? Not feeding it kibbles and bits?" And that's and she's like, look at it. So that's when I started researching it, and I'm like, here over in South Africa, she's like she's got it right.
yeah. And I wonder, so how much this processed diet, how much it's affected our pets' health, over the years. Because I remember when I was a kid, there were still people feeding their dog mostly scraps.
Right.
So that was in the 60s. And the dog food aisle was only just a tiny little piece of the
Yeah.
grocery store. Now it's the entire aisle. But yeah, so I wonder, like, has the as far as the health of our domesticated pets, I wonder, like, is their lifespan shorter or is it longer? It seems
Yeah.
shorter.
If you research, the cancer rate is up. If you
Yeah,
start research, when you start researching, yeah. I mean, how many times do we see all these cancers now in dogs?
right. Oh,
Constantly. Is it because
no.
we have better diagnosis, like with humans, or is it that? But then, if you think about, they're getting fed the same food every day, and we're brainwashed. I have people say to me like, "I don't give my dogs any scraps, no food." I'm like, "No, give it scraps, give it,
I know.
give it rice, make food for it." I have a couple of books that I like to always share that you got to make sure you have the calcium levels, and there's different vitamins. It's
Right.
not just but and people are so brainwashed that we think that food in the kibble in that green bag is perfect,
Food.
and that's the food you feed. Oh, we should not give them any, turkey. No. And so it's kind of a brainwashing we've had for marketing. It's all about marketing. It's all about that bottom line, and
Yeah.
Benefil is a good. Sorry if I'm saying any names, but like the packaging, you look at it and it's beautiful. There's a happy dog. There's little vegetable pictures, and
Right.
then you find out. Then you start reading the label, and like chicken byproducts. That's feathers. You were feeding your dog feathers. That's nothing.
Right.
Something that they would eat. So I always tell people research. There's some great websites to learn about dog food. But yeah, it's horrifying when you start finding out the beef and any of the food that we think of like beef, chicken. It's all the stuff that we can as humans eat. It's all the scraps. It's diseased, dead, and dying animals. It's
Wow.
not. It's not like the farmer who has had a happy cow and then it did its thing. And no, what we have in our dog food is
Right.
not human grade.
Right. Yeah, it's real. It's real. It's upsetting, that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
upsetting, and then it's sort of an awakening. You're like, because yeah, I can't imagine eating the same food every single day. Like that would be like me buying a can of Dinty Moore stew and eating that every single day of my life.
That's a good way of saying it, yeah. Because I mean, wouldn't you get sick? Wouldn't that be bad for your body? The
It would
levels
be
of chemicals
terrible.
in
It's
that.
filled with sodium. I mean, it would be awful. There might be people out there that actually think Dinty Moore stew is nutritious, or
We're sorry.
let's say Chef Boyardee SpaghettiOs or something.
Yeah. We'll go with that one. Yeah, sure. Yeah, because if you feed that every day, but we think that that's the best thing for our dogs. We're always, and that's why I love these little small like boutique, like Happy Dog or any of those
Yeah,
small boats, because they're out there educating and making food and showing you like this is what you should use. And some of the food that I feed, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm good because it's like human grade human grade dehydrated food. I'm like, bring on the zombies. I got it.
Yeah, no, I know. I make my own. I don't even, but one of these days I might have to buy the actual, the prepared raw food or whatever, but that's fine. I don't care. I'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a rescue, so I have like 10 dogs. So I do feed a higher end kibble, but I'm
Yeah,
always
I
mixing
know.
them with the crock pots and like that. And when I had smaller dogs, when I only had 5 dogs instead of 11, I was making my own stews and, going to the meat market. And, as you know, I'm a vegetarian, but I don't impose my vegetarian on my animals because they need that protein. So I'll go to the meat,
Right.
I have a chicken processing plant and get necks and make the stews and like that. Because it's really important to have that healthy diet for your animal
Yeah.
and know what's the ingredients. Because if you think about the dog food, you know, is stuff that we can't eat that's not safe for us to eat, which is kind
Right.
of a crazy thought.
Yeah. I have a kind of a personal question for you. So, both
Yes.
both you and I were, we didn't have kids, and
Shit, I didn't have kids.
no, we forgot, and it's kind of late now, right?
Yes.
So, just so everybody knows, I've known Nancy for a long time. Like we grew up in the same neighborhood, and then we started becoming friends in our 20s, and then
Yeah.
we kind of like have weaved through each other's lives for a long time. Never really hanging
Don't say
out,
the years.
hanging.
Don't say the years.
What?
Don't say the years.
Yeah, a long time. So, we grew up actually in the same neighborhood, and pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Roger's back.
Chicago, yeah. And so it's weird to me because there's a bunch of people from our group that didn't have kids.
I know my whole little group, my four of us that we were really tight. None of us have kids.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
Oh, I'm losing you.
Oh, I know.
Are you there? Okay, there you
Am I back?
are. Lost you for a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're back. Okay. I know, isn't it? It's just we took a different path.
yeah, we did. So I think that I also have like done a lot of like animal rescuing and on my own, just in my house. And I
Yes,
wonder,
you little kittens.
yeah, kittens, ferrets, and pretty much anything, And now I take care of a colony of ferals.
Aw.
Yeah. But I wonder how much of that is, how much of like, me wanting. So I think women have the desire to nurture. Like
Yes.
so, and I wonder, like,
You don't see any single guys going out there going, I gotta help these puppies.
right. So I wonder how much of that energy is sort of displaced because we didn't have kids.
That is a question I've always wondered too, because I get that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of times when people be like, oh, you should have had kids, or, they don't know my backstory, but they'll be like, oh, you should have had kids. You would have been great with kids. I'm like, well, maybe not,
Yeah.
because they have that statement all the time. It's like, you don't know my backstory and my upbringing.
Right.
And then I'm thinking, maybe I have because it's a question we always, when I talk about surrender, I was in a bad marriage. I was like 39. My biological clock was thumping, and I'm like, tears. What am I going to do? Society says I should have had kids by now. It was a whole big, heavy duty,
Right.
process to get. And then when I watched the one Oprah episode I watched, and it was talking about surrendering yourself, and then I kept, and it's a question we have over the years, why I didn't have kids. I'm in my 40s and my friends have toddlers. And I'm thinking, well, this was my path. I've been able to impact kids and in a different way, and I help
Yeah.
animals, but I'm not like the crazy, like a lot of times animal rescuers don't like the human aspect of it. And mine is kind of like 50-50. I like that animal rescue part of it, but I also like that human rescue part of it. Part of
Yeah.
my thing, my motto and thing is from dog to dove, this is the place they all find love. So it's that nurturing that I can also help people, it's hand in hand. Because a lot of times, I've met some rescuers that are like anti-child, anti-person.
Right.
But I think my feeling, because I would want to I wanted to have kids, but it just didn't work out that way. I mean, my dream was to have like a ton of kids and a big farm, and it didn't work that way. So that's why I was kind of at a loss in my 40s or, early 40s.
Right.
And having this rescue, I'm like, well, my path, which I like, is that I'm able to help many kids. the teenagers that have come through here that have helped me out. I'm still friends with them, and they're adults now. I'm always teasing them, like, you can drink now? I'm like, Nancy, I'm 30, you know? Um, and then having that, and then all the kids, and, I think of the way back when I was like 6 years old, my mom took me to a wildlife rehabber's place, and I fed some baby animals, and that stuck with me. That made me this person. So I just think of, like, when I have the open houses, I have like 100 to 150 people here. And if I get a couple, I mean, in those groups each week, each month, I have an open house. And if there's 2 or 3 people, kids that are getting that aha moment from feeding a baby animal here, I'm like, I've had a huge impact. So yeah, so I've had that thought a lot. I didn't have kids, and a lot of my peer group didn't have kids. Are we doing this to fill a gap? Because a lot of times people think you're filling a gap, but I think I'm better because I don't have kids, because I'm able to help so many, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that attitude. That is
Instead of like, I'm going from, because I'm a big Wayne Dyer fan, so instead of like always operating from the world of lack, like if I didn't have kids, I'm an empty vessel. I'm like, I didn't have kids, so I can give more. And when I have 30 kids here, teaching 30 kids about wildlife, and then they can go. I think I'm doing my part in the universe in a big way.
You are.
I
believe that you are as well. I mean, the ripple effect that you're having is huge. So I think a couple of my friends started following your page. Who knows? They may have donated. I don't know. But it's like, it's huge. These ripple effects that we have as human beings, just by doing what we want to do, just by being us.
Exactly. And another thing I wanted to touch base, when, being a rescuer, and, I've had little articles and interviews and stuff like that on paper. Sorry, I've been talking a lot here. But it's something, and a lot of us rescuers talk about this. We can't not rescue, because I get a lot of people like, oh, I want to do what you want to do. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't understand. It's, and I don't mean to be rude in that way, but it's like, yes, what you see here today and all the cute little animals you want to do, but us rescuers, we can't not do this. It's kind of, we always compare it to like a religious calling.
Yeah.
Like a person, I can't not rescue. Even when I had cancer and I was sick for a year and I was going through treatment for a year, I didn't stop. I still, I was practically almost smuggling baby bunnies into the hospital when I was getting treatment. But it's because we can't not do this.
Right.
It's like, we can't stop. We can't stop it.
That's interesting, because I've struggled with that. I'm like, there's a part of me that says, like, I shouldn't be, because my husband always like, okay, who are you trying to fix now? And it's like, I'm always like, I want to help. I want to actually open a rescue for humans. Why isn't there rescues for humans?
And that's what, it's funny because you say that, because that's what my goal with my animal rescue is. I'm also a rescue for humans. I have a lot of people that come that have kind of troubled souls. I kind of attract that sometimes in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I have like such a peaceful place here. So when I have somebody that says, can I just go for a walk in your woods? I find it peaceful here. To me, I'm like, yes. Because once again, I'm one of those people that I want to rescue humans and people too.
Yeah.
So when somebody has that aha moment of seeing my place or walking or seeing, I have a nature retreat that's going to be opening up this summer, a place where people can spend the night and have that. It's off the grid for now, eventually electric, but it's a cabin up in the woods where they can spend the night and have that moment of peace and reflection.
Yeah.
Because there is, I wish there was funding to help, more people. And that all started from watching a movie, The World According to Garp. Anybody remember that one?
Yeah.
That's
a great movie.
Okay, so that's one of my favorite movies. Once again, another big aha moment in my life is seeing that movie. And Glenn Close had that farmhouse with kind of some broken people around.
Yeah.
When I saw that movie, I'm like, I want that house.
Wow.
That was part of my vision. And always stayed when she was walking around the porch, and there's kind of like and I wish I had a bigger house so I could have more people, but to have these souls, just a place for them to heal their soul. That movie stuck with me, and that was part of my rescue. Once again, I wanted to rescue animals, but I also wanted to help people.
Yeah, so. That's really, that offering of kindness, just, you saying, yeah, you can come here, you can walk in my woods, you can come here and stay, hang out with the goat in the barn for an hour or
Right.
whatever.
Just be.
It's really important. It's really impactful. It really is on just, on humans. It is. I know it was important for me, especially if you're, going through something and you're going through the healing process. I'm not sure, you don't want like people that are sort of destructive around, because that is also has
But we all,
that has a ripple effect as well. But
right.
yeah, so it's but I think,
We all need kindness.
yeah, we do. And I think there's not enough of it. I really don't. It's like, it seems like everything is sort of medicalized. So it's like when you're hurting, it's like, oh, here, you're going to go through this therapy and take this medicine. And it's like a lot of people, they don't need that. They just need to be heard and validated and to be, some kindness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just a moment, just to have that time to say, yeah, things aren't right. Things aren't perfect in the world, and that's okay. It's time for you to, have some healing and do that. And, I talk about working with people. I have a dog right now, and it's unfortunate. It's a little rat terrier, and the owner ended up in a homeless shelter.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's in a homeless shelter, and I have this little rat terrier, and I got his file, and he was visiting his dog at animal control, and they asked if I could take it, um, and I look at the file, and I Googled his address, and it looks like he used to live in a very nice area in a town, and it looks like probably drug use, something happened, because the dog was taken very well care of for 12 years, and he's a year later, he's still in a homeless shelter and trying to get jobs and like that. But that human, he contacts me all the time to see how his dog is doing. We go for visits, and he's hoping to get on his feet. And that's one of the things, a lot of people who lose focus, that we have to help the humans too.
Yeah.
Is that, a lot of people be like, oh, he doesn't deserve to have a dog. That dog, and that kind of like playing God kind of in a way. They'll be like, you got to rehome that dog, But the dog was, little Rhino will stay here with me. If he gets on his feet, which I'm hoping, even if it's 2 years from now, his dog will go back to him.
Yeah.
But we got to remember, it's that kindness. So, when he's having a bad day, he text messages me for a picture of his dog. And, he's trying to get off. He's trying to get his life together. And he's trying to, work his way to a job in an apartment. So I think a lot of times we forget that we just need to help each other out.
Yeah, we really do.
Yes.
That is such a touching story, because I mean that's going to be like, when he does get it together, he's always going to have that in his mind to look back to, like, that person was so kind to me. And my dog, whereas I'm sure he had a lot of people saying, like, just get rid of the dog, bring it to the pound, whatever, I mean, you're
Yeah.
actually taking care of his pet, while he's trying to get himself together. And I know you can't take people in. They're a lot more responsibility than dogs. It's a whole different thing. But
Right.
yeah, it really is. But that's amazing. That's an amazing story. Wow. It really is. It's really touching.
Yeah, we all got to help each other out. So,
Yeah.
once again, my rescue is helping everything, helping everybody.
Wow. Yeah, that does. I didn't realize, I didn't realize, like, taking someone's dog, and the bigger effect it has. It really does. I mean, it's not just, you're right, you are rescuing humans.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the land and the resources to help, a lot of time, women in abusive situations, because I know I was in that, and I didn't want to leave because I didn't have a place for my pets. That's just a dream I have, and I know some people are funding and doing that sort of dream, and that's another, helping. I'm always with shelters that take in animals while women are going through some sort of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And there's a few groups like that, and to me, that those people are getting it too. There's that human. You got to help each other out, the human and the animal aspect.
I think also our culture, the cultural attitude towards pets has changed a lot in the last 20 years. So pets are now like, companion animals. They're looked at, and they're sort of healing. They're seen as their therapy dogs. There's like this whole movement to sort of I guess to give people, I think it's an easy way for people to connect. We find it so hard to connect to each other, but we find it easy, it's easy to connect to a pet. And so when you bring a therapy dog into a hospital or whatever, it's easy for that person to embrace the dog. I wish that we, could extend that, human to human, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and is it like it's sort of seen as perverse. Oh, I just go into, hospices and hug the elderly people. I mean, it's almost seen, that would be seen, oh, you're a weirdo. What's, you know what I mean? But it's okay to
Yeah.
bring a dog in and do it.
Right. Yeah. It is.
Strange world we live in, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, I always think of, well, with being a vegetarian, you talk about animal protecting people, and it's just like you'll speak out, people get angry about that, which is, it's just, when people are speaking out kindness in any way to an animal or to a human, you're always seen, it seems strange,
Right. Yeah, I know.
If you said you're like, I'm going to go visit people and just want to go sit with them, like, really? You're what?
Right.
Yeah, it's a disconnect. I know, and I wish there was more groups, because with like dogs and animals to help connect the people. Because I know with me, when I lived in Chicago, I was a single person, and you know how hard it is as a single person to get out and meet people. It's easier to stay in your apartment
Yeah.
in a big city. And I know my dog, I had an Afghan hound, and she started getting me to the dog parks and getting, you have that excuse to get out and about and meet people. But if you go to like a park by yourself, you're kind of a creep.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But it's okay to bring your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sort of gives you an excuse to do your human thing, which is like, what is wrong with something's not right.
Yeah, it's like you get the extremes, and
Yeah.
then we're like, we have people that treat their dogs like little humans.
Yeah.
Which is
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. That's another little. Dogs are dogs. Humans are humans.
I'm not going to even mention some of our friends doing that.
No, none of my friends do that. No, sorry, friends. No, nobody does that.
It's hilarious. I don't care. It's fine. Whatever. Anyway, so we should probably end this because we've been talking it over an hour. So
I know you and I are both like, what?
yeah,
What?
I know, but I do want to. Here's the first thing I want to say is I'll put it I'll link below the YouTube video is your website. Can you tell me what your website is?
Secondhandranch.com, the number 2nd, handranch.com.
And then you have a Facebook page where people can follow you.
Yep, and it's always good stories and, some tragedies. But I share my life. I have about 8,000 followers. And I have to say, too, with Facebook, say what you will with Facebook, and people complain about it. And we're old people, so we like the Facebook. We're not hip and trendy. we're like the Facebook. But because of Facebook, I'm just amazed how we can share our stories. My rescue really took off once Facebook really kind of like
that's it.
grew. I mean,
it's great. I mean, I think it's really great. I think Facebook is a great way to connect. I really do. It's like I think that's how we reconnected through Facebook. I reconnected with a lot.
It's a double-edged sword because people get caught into Facebook, which is fake sometimes.
Right.
That whole world. But yeah, I post every day. I share my life completely. Like, as I got diagnosed with cancer in 2016, I was sick the whole entire year, but it was because of Facebook and the Secondhand Ranch people following me that I think they basically cured me between prayer and just support and sharing. I share my stories of triumph and I share my stories of tragedy. Like there's a saying, when you share joy, it multiplies. When you share sorrow, it divides. And I truly, my people who follow me on Facebook, they are so important to me. I mean, it is just every day. I mean, I can bring in a baby animal that's like breaking my heart, and everybody's there to share my sorrow, and it makes it feel like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Right. I totally get it. That's awesome. I'm really glad that resource, that Facebook is, something really important and useful for you, and I think the ripple effect is even bigger. So the kindness, the things you're doing, it's like it's worldwide now. You can actually reach people in, South Africa or, Guam, wherever. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It blows my mind how the people who follow me, and I just have to say, like, we're talking about Facebook and, reaching out. When I was sick, the whole community, Facebook and the community around, did fundraising so I didn't lose my house. I mean, this is like an epic thing. This is why I also am dedicated to doing so much outreach and education, having these open houses, is because when I was really, really sick, Facebook, I mean, people wrote checks because I was on disability,
Mhm.
and without me, there's no rescue.
Right.
And if I lost my home, there'd be no rescue. There's this whole, everybody knows who is faced with a serious illness and losing, being put on disability.
Right.
I can say the world out there blew me away. I mean,
Wow.
people were writing checks for $5, and they were writing, to Nancy to help me with my house payment, but then they also to the rescue, and the town formed this big fundraiser. Like, there were probably 300-400 people there. They raised 25,000,
So
so I didn't lose my
basically, I
house.
mean,
Crazy.
you've been helping people helping people and animals for a long, long time. And when you needed help, everybody was there for you, which is like it. That is really humbling. That really is.
It is. And
Yeah.
everybody talks about karma and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, you sit there and ask why you're sick, but then to teach you that there's this great world out there. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just, I mean, and then, connecting back with old friends like you, and it's just, you're not old, but
Yeah.
um, it's just really cool. And then sharing my stories of rescue. So I'm rambling. I could talk forever.
Now,
Here's what happened
also,
today at Secondhand Ranch.
one more thing that I wanted to bring up. Yeah, follow Nancy at Secondhand Ranch. But one more thing I wanted to mention was the fact that you actually do go to other countries and bring back dogs. Or
Yeah, I was on vacation when I went to remission. I wanted to go to Costa Rica, the Osa Peninsula, and it was just a complete random thing. I'm heading down there to this remote area, beautiful area, and I was like, I wonder if there's a dog rescue. So once again, the power of Facebook. I just Google Osa Peninsula dog rescue, and I meet these wonderful people that I have, like, now this home base. We're planning probably going back at Christmas, and I met this wonderful German young woman who runs a dog rescue and cat rescue, and veterinarians down there. I sponsor spay and neuter clinics. I help. I meet, and there's foster-based system, and they have the same healthcare, and it's for their dogs. I mean, microchipping, spay, neuter, vaccinations. I mean,
uh-huh.
the whole 9 yards. Yeah, and so now I'm going down there. I'm bringing donations. I usually have like a suitcase that look like a crazy lady of like heartworm preventative and antibiotics and flea medication. So it's like going through customs, like, yeah, I have a pharmaceutical company here. But yeah, so I've met, and once again, here we go again, animal people. I was just Googling to see if there was a dog rescue. Thought it would be a hoot to bring a dog up. My first day of my vacation 3 years ago, I'm at a vet clinic meeting this wonderful woman, Janina, and I'm bathing puppies with fleas. And I'm like, yes, the best vacation ever. And and now, because of just doing that, wanting to rescue dogs, I've brought some dogs up here that are fully vetted and adopted them out. But I also met this great group of people.
Yeah.
And now I go, I go once a year. Now we're probably going to go twice a year, just because we've met these kindred spirits of animal rescue, and just really cool. And they're, Americans and Costa Ricans and Germans. And once again, saving animals saves humans.
Yeah.
It's this whole cool connection of humans and animals.
Yeah, we're all connected. Everything
We are.
on this
Every
planet,
spirit.
everything. I'm sure if you wanted to save the trees, you would meet a million other people that wants to do the same thing. You know what I mean?
I'm dating a forester, so yeah,
Yeah.
we're saving trees.
There you go. We're all connected. But so yeah,
Yes.
you can follow Nancy at Secondhand Ranch on Facebook, or with the number 2, Secondhand Ranch and Rescue, right? Secondhand Ranch.
Yeah. Well, secondhandranch.com is my website.
Ranch.
But on Facebook, Secondhand Ranch and Rescue, the number 2.
Yeah, and then I'll leave all her info in the link below. So we're gonna end this, but stay on the line, okay? Bye,
Any
everyone.
dandelion?
And I just wanted to tell you, Nancy, that you are, like I said, you're a huge inspiration to me and many other people that I know. And it's an honor for me to hear your story and for you to share it with me. I think that you are having such a big effect. I really do, on this world. And you are definitely somebody that I admire for living
Aw.
this unconventional life and for just following your dream. It's really cool. So,
I like how you say unconventional life. I'm not a crazy lady.
right.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to finish this. So I'm going to hang up,
Okay. Bye.
and we're still on, right?